Hi, everyone. So we're going to do it a little mixed up here where I'm going to start with slides and then I'm going to have to go over there to actually teach you the Squarespace site. So I'll just be in a corner, but it'll be fine. Okay, so thank you so much for attending the 11th annual Denver Startup Week. First, I want to start off by saying thank you to our partners, Capital One Cafe, Amazon. Not on. It says it's on. I don't know if it's not.
Test.
Oh. I'm just not very good at the angle. Okay. Is it just?
Test.
There we go. Is that better? Okay. This session is part of the Founder Track, sponsored by Madison Taylor, one of the 8 programming tracks aimed at just helping the entrepreneurial team. And thank you so much to all of our sponsors. Ben, next slide. Listed here, and obviously, okay, we're gonna get really close to my mouth. And by attending, you are agreeing to our code of conduct and that you are okay with being filmed on camera and video. Okay, so today we are going to be diving into how to build an effective website on Squarespace. So the reason we use Squarespace, we're going to go into a little bit deeper in a couple of slides, but I want to give you a little bit of a background on who I am and why I am able to be presenting this to you guys. So my name is Sydney Smith. I am a brand and web designer, and I've been working in Squarespace since 2016. I own my own branding and website design company and have been full-time in that since 2017. So today we're going to be running into how to build an effective site. Thank you. It really requires you to be like right here. How to build an effective site, because I know as you are getting started as an entrepreneur, this is one of the last things you really want to deal with, and it can hold a lot of people back. So we are going to dive into how to build one on Squarespace that is really easy for you to edit and manage yourself. So before we dive into the technical back piece of it, I want to first talk about the things that you should really know before you even get started on the design. So the main 2 questions that are really important that you want to answer on your website is, what do you do and how does it make your viewers' life better? And essentially, in a crowded market, if you think about when you pull up about 5 different tabs and you're looking for, let's say, a chiropractor or a dentist or something where you don't have a personal relationship with them, you're going to go with the person who you feel like speaks more specifically to your needs. So let's say you are an athlete. You're going to focus more on the chiropractor who talks about the fact that they work specifically in that field. So you want to make sure that instead of just saying a generic, I'm a Denver chiropractor, that you really get into the mind of your ideal clientele. So one way you can do this is if you have past clients, really start to think about the verbiage they were using specifically when you were starting to work with them. So where were they at when they came in your door, and then where did you take them, and really get in their head and understand, again, verbiage that they used exactly. And if you have feedback forms at the end of your work with clients, this can be a great place to steal that exact verbiage and really start to, again, get in their heads and understand where they're at and how you can solve their pain point. Another thing is that you really only have 7 seconds when people land on your site to make an impression. So within that first hero section, you really want to answer these 2 questions pretty quickly, and then throughout the rest of the content in the site, make sure that you are also continuing to answer those questions. And then keep going. Another huge thing that we are going to talk about is brand consistency. So you want to make sure, I know a lot of people don't understand exactly what a brand is. Is it a logo? Is it fonts? And really what it is how you make people feel at any point of contact with you. So you want to make sure that you are coming into what are the words that you want people to think of when they come to your site, when they come to your social, or even when they're on like a sales call with you. Having them all come back to the same, essentially like 3 to 5 words that you want people to really think of and associate with your business. So let's say you are a therapist, for example, who would probably be along the lines of warm, calming, welcoming, and those types of things. So bright colors like red would not exactly be your friend. So coming into making sure you are picking fonts that feel welcoming and calming, picking colors that feel welcoming and calming, picking imagery that also is along this same theme. And another big I want to talk through is making sure that everything is legible on your page. I know some people like to gravitate towards handwritten fonts. That is not great when you're thinking about a paragraph. You definitely want to make it so it is very easy to read for people. So handwritten fonts can be really awesome as like a little flair piece, but not exactly as your main text. And then also, another piece is just coming into making sure all of the fonts or all of the text is legible in the sense that you're not using dark on dark. So you don't have a dark text with a dark background, and you don't have a light text with a light background. Obviously, if you are doing the work to get people to your website, you want to make sure they can actually read everything on it. Okay, so why Squarespace? So I have worked in Squarespace, like I said, since 2016, have built about 80% of my sites on Squarespace. I also design in Showit and Shopify, so there are reasons you would specifically go with other ones, but good. But Squarespace is really robust. It's easy to customize. 99% of it you can do without coding, and it also has a lot of integrations like member space areas. It has easy Google integrations, also has an email on the back end that you can use, has a scheduling platform that is built in that you can use, and on top of that, there's also event calendars and e-commerce capabilities. So the only reason I guide people away from Squarespace and towards Shopify or Showit would be if you have a solely e-commerce business, I would definitely recommend doing Shopify as, like, if you are making all of your bread and butter on your sales online, Shopify is solely known for being an e-commerce platform. So that is definitely the route I would say, just because it has thousands of apps and integrations. The way I like to describe it is if you are a coffee shop that also sells t-shirts and tumblers, definitely Squarespace is a great option. But if you are solely a fashion business selling t-shirts, definitely Shopify is a better option. And then with Showit, the only time I guide people towards that is if they want a really unique and distinct interface where you can essentially place anything anywhere and it sticks. So now we'll go over to the actual building portion. So I will be over here, but we will come to Q&A right after. Okay, so actually coming into building your Squarespace website, you will log in and then go to create a website. And so over the last couple of years, Squarespace has changed their platform. So it used to be more important what theme you went with, but now all themes are interchangeable, meaning you can do anything on them. So the only reason to start with a specific theme is, as you go in here, I'll skip this. If you see one that you really like and want to use those designs from the get-go, or another thing is if you have an online store, you can select this, and this just means that you won't have to build it out from scratch. It'll already have that capability and be in there, and then you'll just go in and modify for your site. So let's go into just building a local business. Let's see. And you can scroll through and see one that you like. Let's just go. let's say with this one, it's pondering. Okay, so your site title is what's going to show up on Google. So you want to make sure that this is the name of your business. Let's just go generic here. Say therapy site. Okay. So now we are in here, and obviously this is not the branding or look and feel I want for this. So where you're going to start is by clicking edit, and then you want to go into the site styles, which the site styles are really what I view as like the blueprint for your website. So where things really start to come together, and we'll start with the fonts. So again, if we're going with a therapy site as the example, and we're looking towards that warm, calming appeal, we'll want to switch this over. And Squarespace added these font packs, which are really nice if you just want something already picked for you. So they have the 3 options of sans serif, serif, or mixed. So if you go to mixed, you can scroll down and find one that you feel like fits. You can pick this one. It takes a second to switch it over. Or it's thinking about it. There we go. Okay, so you can see it switched this over to the different font. Another thing you can do if you want to pick your specific font is go into headings. Can you move it down a little bit? And then browse all fonts, and they have a very vast library of fonts that you can go in and pick from if you want to change that specifically instead of using one of their font packs. And then within here, you can now go and mess with things like the weight of it, or the height, letter spacing, and also heading 1. So this is pretty large for my liking, so if I scale it down, then I can kind of scale all the rest of them down accordingly, and go back, and I could do the same for paragraphs as well, and right in here. And then coming over into colors. So they do have, when you come into Edit Palette, they do have preset palettes that you can play with. You can also upload an image and pick colors from that image. For this use case today, I'm just going to go in and pick, again, colors that are along that warm, calming feel. And so we're going to start with blues. Maybe go a little lighter on this one. And then maybe a lighter alternate color, and then a tan for a background option. Okay, so then you now have your new colors, your new fonts, and you can see how this already started to change the look and feel of the site by just changing those pieces. So now we're going to come into the site header. So here, if you click on this desktop, you can switch over to the orientation. So you can change where all of these elements are. I'm going to keep it like that for now. And then you can also mess with the link spacing here. As you can see, it's moving those social icons farther apart. And then coming back over into global, you can come in here, turn on and off this button. If you want that in your navigation or not, you can turn on and off the social links. If you have an e-commerce element, you can turn on and off that cart as well. And also if you want your site to have several languages. And then coming into style, here is where you can start to play with what the actual navigation looks like. So you can have it be a solid color, and you could change the background here, or you can go into dynamic and have it be essentially whatever is below it here. So let's say I want to come in here, have it be dynamic. And so now we're going into the actual content of the site. So I'm going to delete this. And obviously this image is not relevant, so I'm going to delete that as well, and just going to delete this section because it's a pre-built section in that template, and I'm going to add a blank one. Okay, so in here, we can pick a background. And again, making sure this is cohesive with the rest of your brand. So I can browse stock images, which they have a great partnership with Unsplash. So they have a lot of images at your disposal here. So let's say I wanted something calming, like something with nature. I can scroll through here and find an image that I feel like fits that look and feel I'm going for. Let's say I choose this one. And then something that's great about this is that you can change the focal point of where it's at. Obviously, you see that changes there. And then in the format, I'm going to make this row count a lot bigger. So let's say around there. And then I want to take down the overlay. And then I'll bring this back down to about here. And another thing that's great about Squarespace is you can edit your images right within them. So instead of having to export it to another platform, you can come in here and start to mess with some of these elements. Let's say bring the brightness down a bit. And you can also crop within here as well. We'll save. And then now coming into those questions that we talked about of what do you do and how it makes their life better. So I just built a therapy website with a client where she was really focused on more of a holistic approach and trying to get people back to an inner state of calm. So the first thing we said was reclaim your inner peace. And then obviously we're going to bump this up a lot bigger. And then you can stretch it to obviously take up the right amount of space you want, and then pull this up. And then, so that answers the question of essentially how you're making their life better, but then coming into how you do it, you could make a tagline along the lines of, let's say, psychotherapy to or something along those lines. Obviously very dependent on your business, and just showing you guys here. And then I would also bump this up a bit too. Okay, another thing within the format you can do is change where the orientation of your content is. So if I press this, it doesn't change too much because where it's oriented, but it shifts up versus this. We'll shift it a little bit. And then we're gonna pull this up so this is not as big. So there you have your hero section. Again, what you're looking to really start to engage people with within those 7 seconds. And then coming down to this next section, typically how I like to orient it is obviously having that first section to draw people in, and then having the second section to really talk about your mission, your vision, your approach, how you specifically go about your work, and how it differentiates you from others. So you could put, let's say, and then size this up and slide it over. And then within here, you can center this text here. and then look for the guide as you pull it over. Oh, sorry, not used to a PC. And then you could add another block of text that, let's say, dives into, again, just a paragraph on your distinct. And then in here, you can slide these over so they take up as much space as you want. I would always just watch to make sure like I have 3 and 3 blocks left on that side. And then you can also come in here and edit the colors really easily. So if you want to switch within your template and try some of the different options, that is right there. Okay, so next, coming into a services section, they obviously have one here that you could use, or I'll just show you another option. You can add a section, and then within here, they have all of these templates already done for you. So you could always come down into services and see if there's one layout you like. Let's say we go with this one, but I want to change some things. So you can go in here and change the images just by deleting it. You can always upload your own file, or again, come back to the stock library. And let's say I want to do blue flowers related to, again, a calming piece of nature and also having it be on brand. Can select this picture. Load. And then now I can come in and switch this design if I want. Can change this to 0, so it's just normal. They also have all these shapes. Obviously, there's some really interesting ones in here, never really dabbled with, but some that are popular are these ones, or obviously the circle. And then coming into these sections, now I can just click in and modify this and say service 1, and then add a brief description on this service. And you'll just want to give people an overview, essentially, of like the breakdown of how they can work with you in this section, and then allow them to, you could have like a scheduling platform where they could go to book it and they have more information in the scheduling platform, or you could go specifically to a page for services and come in and say, learn more, or whatever tagline you feel is appropriate for also your brand personality too. And then same thing with this one, could switch to service 2, add a brief description here, and then come into making these uniform, going with shape, and then having it be circle. So that's one way you can set up your services section. Obviously, would do this one too, but for the sake of time, want to move on to a next section. But so in your homepage, again, how I usually view it is to draw people in, then really go more into your mission, your value, how you are differentiated, show them how they can work with you, and then also adding social proof is a great one. So this demo content we can get rid of. And then we'll just add a section here, and you can go down to testimonials. And they have a bunch of different options, but you can pick the one that works best for you. I'll just go with this one. And then I can go into edit content. And then, obviously list out the actual quote from the client. and then coming back, and you could do that over and over again. And then you can also delete any of the ones you don't want. And then other sections people sometimes prefer on their homepage is maybe a contact section. So you can always add that as well. I'll show you really quickly. You go add section, and then again, can go over to the contact. Oh, sorry, I think I accidentally pressed back on the PC. Let me add that again. Contact. And then can modify from here. Let's say I want the background to be dark. Want to get rid of this image. And then I want to center this and bring it down. Oh, looks like that one's stuck. We're gonna add the text block. And anytime you're going to add content, you will go over to this add block here, and that's where you will find everything from images, video, a code block, a scheduling block, e-commerce stuff, and that is how you will add it to your page. Size this up and center it. And then their forms here, you can edit them. Let's say we want to just say inbound. And then you can come into edit form fields and add whatever you want as far as content. So if you want a more long form answer, you can add that. Or if you want, a checkbox to label it, whatever you want. So let's say just question, and then options. You can add as many options as you want and list them out to your preferences. They also have everything from phone, obviously email, surveys, different things like that, so you can come in and add them. I don't want to get too granular with all of these pieces because there's a bunch of other pages I want to show you guys too. So we'll click save. Also, I'm just realizing how different the color is on that background versus on my computer. So, okay, coming into here, we can also get rid of all these extra sections on your homepage. Again, if you don't want to deal with some of that demo content. And we will scroll down to, this is their footer, so I'm going to edit this, get rid of this background. I can't see. And then coming into having information on the footer, I'm going to delete this. And then typically, we can keep this here and just drag it over. Typically, I would also put the title of your business in the footer again. Obviously, this one is, simple. Size it down a little bit. You can also add social links here and drag them. And then when you come in here, can just edit this, paste in any ones you want to add of like LinkedIn or Pinterest or any other social platform as well. And then you can also, if you want, add a little bit of a navigation down here. Obviously relevant to the pages you'll be building, and then you can link them through this button here, and then coming in to the page, And then we've only built home right now, so that's the only one populating, but as soon as you would build those other ones, they would come in as well. And then you could also, if you had like a client portal or things like that that I've had clients need before, you can always link to a web address and then make sure to open it in a new window so you're not losing people off of your site. And another page you want to make sure you have if you are collecting anyone's information through a form is a privacy policy that essentially just states you are not using their information or selling it in any way. Okay. So now coming into an about page, again, you can start with page layouts or a blank one and build from scratch. Let's say we want to go with an about page that they already have. Go in, delete that. And now you can come into editing it. Obviously, it's great to build that know, like, and trust factor with a headshot of yourself. For this case, I will just grab a headshot. And then again, you can play with the design of it in here or keep it as is. And then coming over here, the biggest thing when thinking about content for your about section is really coming into not just making it a resume, so not just having it list off your education and that you live in Denver with your dog, but really coming into how it's relevant to your client. So obviously, if you're in a industry where your education is relevant, definitely still list it, not saying that, but also come into how more of like the why behind your story so it can start to resonate with your ideal clientele. So thinking through, are there elements that made you, for example, want to be a therapist that someone who is seeking therapy might also resonate with or identify with along that journey? So getting a little more personal with it instead of just having it be a generic overview can definitely help you land more clients as they feel like they can understand and connect with you versus it's a very kind of like stock text that they don't feel like they can connect with. Also coming into here, if you want to add a button, you could always add that here. And then come into, maybe it's, let's say, get in touch. Okay, and then another thing when you are at the end of having built out all these pages is definitely do a run through and make sure you connect all these links. As you're seeing, a lot of the stuff that I'm building right now, the subsequent things that it's supposed to connect to haven't been created yet. So I always do a sweep back through at the end and make sure it is all connecting properly. Save. And then we can now go into a different page. So let's say we want to do the page layouts for services. Can see what options, see if any of them resonate with you. Let's say we do this one. And then if you ever want to move around your navigation, you can just drag it and drop it. So that's why it's super easy to shift those pages. And then coming into here, you can move this around if you want to play with that, and also come into it having a background or not in there. And then obviously this is going to be a deeper dive of a service explanation. And really in this section coming into how it what it really looks like to work with you in this service, what maybe the amount of time is, and also really focusing on that A to B process of who this service is great for, where they're at when they're coming in, and then what is the journey you're taking them on to help them solve that problem. And then in here, you can edit these images same way. and pick a new image, again, that's on brand with the look and feel you're looking for. Let's say I want to do that again, and maybe do, actually that's a little too dark. Let's go. Something like that. And then you could do that for each service, and then also making sure to add a button as well, so that if people are interested in this service, they either, if you have a lot of information about about the service specifically, you could create a specific page for it. Or again, if you want to have them go and book it, and you want to use the scheduling platform, you could do that. Or you could have people or direct people to your contact page as well to be able to reach out and get more information directly from you. And so you would just do the same thing for each service. And then I can save here. And then coming into a contact page, again, you can go page layouts, contact, just make it super easy. Let's say we want to go with this one. And then in this gear, you can come in and make sure to delete that second portion and clean up those URLs. And then obviously, I'm going to build out this contact, but if you had contact, you wouldn't also want get in touch in the banner here. So you could take that out or turn it into something else. Let's say if you had like a courses arm of your business, you could add that as the CTA there. And then coming into selecting an image for this background. And then this is a little too hard to read, so I would bump up this overlay. Or again, you could come in and edit the image and play with the brightness and contrast. And then in here, you can edit this content and just say something like whether you're okay, and then coming into here, obviously you could put your contact information, or you could put a form in if you prefer that as the method for delivery. When you are putting these in, you can also come into the link here and put in the email to link it in here, so that way, as soon as people click that button, they are emailing you directly. Or for the phone section, you can put that in, and that way, as soon as people are on your mobile version, they will be able to click that and call you directly. And also you could put your address if it's relevant, or obviously if you're virtually or doing business virtually, you wouldn't need it. Can remove these. And then here they do have a map, again, which is great if you are a local business where you want people to know your location. You can just come in and enter your address and it will populate there. And if not, you can always just delete this. Okay, and then something else I want to run through really quickly is looking at the mobile version. So they just changed it, so the mobile version is a bit more dynamic now. So this is definitely, I mean, regardless, you should always check this before launching your site, but definitely something to come into and make sure all the elements are in the right place. You can also make certain sections smaller on mobile. And another thing to look at is coming, into where the focal point is, because sometimes on desktop it'll look great, but then on mobile it'll be a little weird. So you can always play with it here, and then go back over to desktop view and see how it's looking. And then now I want to leave plenty of time for Q&A. So that is, sorry, I was facing the other way the whole time, but those are the basic pages. Obviously, most websites have. As I mentioned, Squarespace, you can also do e-commerce functionality, scheduling, a lot of other things, but with an hour, don't really have time to jump into more of the complexities. You can obviously also do a blog as well, but every page is going to be based off of that editor that I was just working in. So once you know how to edit and modify on that, like you can do, it's going to be the same as far as for shifting things within your blog, for shifting things within your e-commerce and scheduling pages as well. So wanted to open it up to Q&A now. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so Shopify point of sale is definitely more streamlined with the same providers for all, like in person versus online. So yeah, I would probably recommend that, because then when you are in person, it's all going to the same data source. So it's all within one area instead of kind of having to piecewise it between Stripe, PayPal, Square. Yeah. 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 So the question was, she has a Squarespace website already, but it's a landing page, so does she have to start from scratch? The biggest thing is if you are on their like legacy platform versus 7.1, that's when I would start over, because a lot of the things you saw in here, as far as like changing colors, a lot more variability with where you can place things. Yeah, that's probably their old platform. So if you are still at a new point, I would definitely just start on 7.1, because it's going to be a lot easier to design, and you might as well just move it over now, so you're not going to have to do it eventually. Yeah, so you can just start a new site, and then they will give you a refund if you're already paying for your like 7.0. You just have to reach out to the chat, and they will give you a refund. If you paid for the full year, they'll give you the refund of the months you haven't used, and if you are paying month to month, they'll just cancel it and start your new one. And then you can easily, if you have your domain in Squarespace, you can easily switch your domain between sites in Squarespace. Yeah. Which subscription would I recommend? If you don't have e-commerce, coding, or scheduling, or like any of the bigger integrations, honestly, personal is fine. You can always bump it up if you find that you need more, but unless you need the business where you can get e-commerce and the scheduling and coding for like different integrations, like let's say you use MailChimp as your email service provider and you want to put that one in, that's when you would need coding, and then that's when I would say to bump up to the business. Yeah. Yeah. For where the form goes? Yeah, so I always back it up on a Google Sheets so that you have that available, and anyone in your company can go and see whatever form information is coming in real time. And then you can pick one email that you want it to go to directly. But again, if you have the Google Sheets backup and you have someone else in your company who wants to also field those, they can respond using the information. For the inquiry forms, yeah. Coming into. Yeah, any form you use that is in their native like form field. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna come. If you had your own app, you could, I've done a lot of, yeah, you can link anything out and allow people to go to your specific preferred form input. You can also code in a lot of different forms if you want a specific, yeah. Okay. If there aren't any other questions, I also have a homepage content workbook on my website if you want help really fight. It has a bunch of questions and then you answer them and it tells you exactly where to put them on your website as essentially the content of like your value proposition or again like your about section. So you can go to olivewingdesigns.com and it'll just be at the top banner. And also if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer. If you want to email me, I am here.
What's the website again?
Olive Wing Designs. So it is like olive, like the food, wing, like a butterfly, designs. It is the only thing in nature that produces blue pigment, so that's why I went with that name. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, awesome. Well, again, feel free to email me if you have anything that pops up as you go in and are trying to play with Squarespace yourself, and I am happy to help in any way I can.